The Royal Norwegian Air Force celebrates its 75th anniversary this year, and the history of the Norwegian Air Force begins with the Spitfire.
And on behalf of the Air Force Museum, descendants of the veterans and the Norwegian Spitfire Foundation, I will guide you through this presentation. First, I would like to say a few words on why we are here today. The Norwegian Spitfire Foundation was established in 2012 with the aim to acquire, restore and operate the Spitfire and other historic aircraft.
Its German counterpart, the Messerschmitt PF109. For the Norwegian Air Force, the Spitfire was an important milestone. The first fighter of the new independent Air Force. One of the most substantial contributions of the Norwegian armed forces on the continent after D-Day was the Norwegian Air Wing that served as a part of the Royal Air Force.
Det strømmet jo på av dem som var utenfor Norge og fra Norge. Utrolig hvordan det fant noen der over Nordsjøen, andre reiste verden rundt, kom til Toronto for å komme inn i det norske flyvåpenet, for jeg hadde hørt det var der forrige.
It is a subject dear to my heart, and that is an ability to bring the memory of the sacrifice of people that have gone before to the fore, so every generation can remember in the proper way. Particularly the younger generation. The minister just said, freedom does not come easily, and those people from the Royal Norwegian Air Force, the Norwegian Air Force, really punched, what we would say, punched above their weight. They were one of the most successful, in the Spitfire terms, one of the most successful fighter wings in the history of the Royal Air Force, not just the Norwegian Air Force.
An emotional highlight of my career, flying-wise, was in September 2014, where I got the chance to take 3 Norwegian World War II veterans up in a Spitfire once again. Willem Moore, Aneus Schøtt, and Rolf Colling each had a flight from Chile in a 2-seat Mark 9. And this largely marked the beginning of what Norwegian Spitfire Foundation is trying to do. Telling the story of those hundreds of servicemen that gave their life for Norway and the Allies during the war. We showed that bringing an aircraft out to the people where they can see, touch, feel and hear the real thing. It's so much more than seeing it in a museum. With a flying airplane, you can visit everybody and not just locals around each museum. I'm very proud to see the enthusiasm that NSF has brought to young and old since we started in 2012. And they now have a solid organization of volunteers that represent everything from detailed history telling to maintaining and operating a Spitfire. I never knew that we can inspire so many. We have local units in Stavanger and Bodø, and again the Spitfire unites people. As an organization, we know what is involved both operationally and financially, and we are ready to tell the story with this aircraft behind me, PL258. This aircraft is unique in the way that it has a profound history of flying in the war by Norwegians.
In today's hunt for attention, many museum executives push for more digital focus. We need to go digital is the catchphrase of many people in charge of affairs. However, these people are mostly old, like myself, and they are wrong. Going digital means that we have to go head-to-head against giants like Netflix, and HBO, and YouTube, and Valve, and Electronic Arts, corporations with tens of thousands of employees and billions in budgets. So how do we get the attention from people? How do we get teenagers to look up from their smartphones? Well, the solution is very simple. You just take a Spitfire and fly at full speed at a low pulse above their heads. And that also solves the location problem, because the Spitfire moves around.
So let me proceed to say that today is a special day. We're told that the aircraft by the name of PL258 will be flying in the sky once again. Is that important? A lot of aircrafts do, or they should do if there are aircrafts. What makes an aircraft special? It's special because it carries a history. A Norwegian history that happens more than 75 years ago, before I was born. Today, we are also making a little history decision by deciding to rebuild this aircraft. We're part of the same history. We share the same freedom. We have the same rights. And we all share a concern for the same future. The future of our children and the children after that. This will be a little hard because I feel connected to this story, but I'll try to get through. This aircraft was part of a bigger entity that stood up against much of the greater force that had the intention of taking away our freedom. It also is the symbol of the stories of all those that lost their lives in the process. In Norway, 329 airmen lost their lives. Families lost their sons. We do not want monuments. We want that our history will be taken care of. This was the last wish. In a more unpredictable world, where the lessons from previous wars and crises seem to be forgotten, we feel that it's more important than ever to remind us of all of the history connected to these men, the choices they had to make, and their willingness to face the consequences. So how can we go about this task? Some will argue that the PL258 is only an aircraft and as such should be in a museum. That is the traditional way of looking at it. We need no more static monumental resemblance of an aircraft in a closed room. We need to combine a flying aircraft with the stories connected to it. That in itself will make a greater impact, and this combination will make it possible to spread the word and the messages to all parts of the country. A dynamic museum, so to speak. The realities of war has to be told in order to prevent this from happening again. Such an aircraft will honor all the Norwegian squadrons, the 330, the 331, the 332, and the 333, and the other Norwegians that served in other LF squadrons during the Second World War. This opportunity was brought forward by the Spitfire Foundation. Through their work and air shows, the vintage aircrafts have experienced the power and the impact when stories connected with these planes are told. The PL258 has not only the vintage element, but it's an aircraft with all the special Norwegian war history. Such aircrafts are hard to find, and especially if they are to be authentic. With the PL258, we have it all. Such an aircraft will carry the history and the stories of hundreds of men who voluntarily left their country to fight. They all made their choices in doing so, accepting the grave and possible fatal consequences. Today, we take peace and freedom for granted. That is, in our part of the world. You do not have to travel far to see conflicts and wars. Wars has followed the human race since day one. I belong to a generation who has not experienced war. The closest I got was to have a father who was a pilot in the Norwegian 331 squadron. He and most of his friends were quite reluctant to tell their stories from the war. They probably thought we would be better off without. In our home, the only sign of father's wartime activity was a Spitfire model standing on the floor in the living room in a do not touch area, and we dare not touch it. First, as an adult, I became aware of the scope of the stories and their achievements. What they had gone through, the fight for our freedom. The stories are awesome. Now, as a father of 5, I want to understand and tell my children the stories of my father, then my father. I want them to connect to the importance of making the right choice and to understand the consequences. The story of my father is probably not so well known, as it is only one of many stories. There are many as seen on the screen, pictures taken in 1943, and it bears their signatures. That makes it really, really valuable. Many of these men did not come home in 1945. The risk was high, and so was the price.
Thank you.